And now, as promised, one last chance to meet the reigning Tree Farmer of the Year before we announce the next winner. He has a large plot of land in Oktibbeha County, Mississippi. Mike and I visited with him not long ago, and it's breathtaking just to be in the middle of it all. Say hello to the 2022 winner, Donald Oswalt.
Shocked, disbelief.
That's what Donald Oswalt says he felt when he learned he'd been selected Mississippi Tree Farmer of the Year. Those who know him aren't surprised at his humility, but for Donald, it was a moment of acknowledgement, a gift of knowing his spirit-filled stewardship was a valued example for others.
I guess you'd say the cherry on top of the sundae, 50-something years of work. You know, we like to think we've done a pretty good job, but it's good when somebody else thinks you've done a pretty good job of what we do. So I was indeed surprised and happy.
Ed Williams is the vice president of the Oktibbeha County Forestry Association and has known Donald for 30 years. He nominated him for this year's honor.
He's a very humble person, but he's also very dedicated to what he does. He's interested, of course, in the forestry production part of it and the management part, but he also has a love of the land, and his motto pretty much through the years has been, I want to leave this land better than I found it. And that's kind of the attitude that has steered him through these years since 1972 to the point that he is now.
Donald owns 700 wooded acres in Oktibbeha County, Mississippi, but thanks to a half-century of patience, persistence, and loving care, those 700 acres are among the most finely manicured you'll find anywhere in Mississippi and beyond.
The way I look at it, we don't actually own anything. We're just the good Lord's stewards. And I think that a measure of your stewardship is how well you ultimately turn it back to Him one day, and that's the best way I can know to describe it. It's a labor of love. It's something that you definitely have to have patience, because it's trial and error. You do things and it doesn't work out, and you can't give up. You just got to say, well, let's try something different and see what the outcome there will be. And if you stay with it, ultimately, it works out in the end.
Donald is not only a tree farmer, but he's a teacher at heart. In fact, in his younger years, he taught high school history, science, and economics. On his land, you'll see examples of all three woven into the landscape with precision, care, and artistry. At 74, he's never been married. He's just too busy loving his work in the woods and spends most weekends out here in his 1,200-square-foot camp house. Out here, he can keep a watchful eye on the property.
He wants to leave this place better than when he found it. As of planting grass, anything from planting trees to keeping roads up, just you name it. He wants to make it a better place for, down the road, future owners, whatever. He just tries to make it a lot better.
James Prysock is Donald's right-hand man. Working together for 23 years, they roam the tree farm, paying careful attention to almost anything you can imagine, putting in pipes, bridges, and culverts, and doing controlled burns. In fact, it's the burns that both of them say has helped preserve the beauty of the land and make it even more suitable for wildlife. James is a certified burn manager. He and Donald plan the patch burning of the property in 40-acre increments.
It is good, and a lot of it's for hazard reduction, because this time of year, this is the fall time of the year, folks don't really realize it. We're going through a dry time of the year. Humidity is down, and it's dry. A fire can come through a place, and it can burn a plantation up.
The idea there being that we want to, one, clean up the forest floor of a lot of debris to control wildfire, but we also want to control the understory and keep it down kind of at knee-high to waist-high so that game species can better utilize it.
But there's much more to the care that Donald gives the land. One example, a tactic the NRCS calls sunlighting. Donald calls it trimming back. It's a way to trimming tree limbs and debris so workers can mow as close to the edge as possible. Ultimately, Donald says, his grass meadows, able to bask in the sun's rays, can grow more vibrantly. It also keeps erosion down, he says, and helps his access road dry out faster after rainstorms. Of course, fire lanes are important on such a large property. Donald has put in lanes every 40 acres to facilitate patch burning, a regular part of his CSP, Conservation Stewardship Program.
Once we complete one, we seed it after we put our culverts and what have you in as needed. We seed it and then we mulch it with, in most cases, Bahia grass hay. So we get a double bang. We get the seed from that hay and we control erosion until the grass kicks in and covers the ground.
Here, an example of selective tree thinning. 20-year-old trees that have been thinned one time, due for a second thinning post-COVID. Next to them, 100 acres of 6-year-old trees where a clear cut was performed, followed by replanting. And here, a terraced, mature pollinator field awash in clover. Donald drills and interseeds Durana, crimson, and arrowleaf clover to create what he describes as a lush stand. To keep it lush, he adds more clover to it every year. Ultimately, it sustains the wildlife and pollinators. At the end of the day, as hard as it might be to believe, there's not much on these 700 acres that Donald and his workers haven't touched in one way or another. For them, and especially for Donald, it's a labor of love, a gift he pays forward with every day of his life.
And I would like for people to, when I'm gone, to look around and say, you know, he did a pretty good job. But ultimately, it's for the man upstairs to judge that. We're just his stewards. We don't really own this. We're just caretakers, and I certainly hope he thinks I've done a reasonable job.
Much more than just a reasonable job, wouldn't you say? Congratulations again to Donald Oswalt, the reigning Tree Farmer of the Year.